Cineverb.
Hello and welcome to Cineverb, a podcast discussing films in and out of the cinema. My name is Anthony Renteria.
And I'm David.
And this week on episode 57, we are discussing the film Fresh, written by Lauren Kahn and directed by Mimi Cave. And here's the synopsis. Frustrated by scrolling dating apps only to end up on lame, tedious dates, Noah takes a chance by giving her number to the awkwardly charming Steve after a produce section meet cute at a grocery store. As always, we will begin with a spoiler-free review, and after our ratings, we will give you plenty of time to pause the podcast, where we will then go into a full spoiler discussion. But okay, so initial impressions. I guess I'll start because you had watched this movie before me, and you recommended it. You said it was a fun time, and I also had heard about this movie. I think it was like at Sundance, or it premiered somewhere, and I remember it receiving a lot of warm responses and attention, and I had it in a bullet, like, all right, I need to see this movie when it drops. And then I guess at some point it dropped on Hulu, and I just was not aware of it. So thank you for bringing it up, because it was like seriously high on my list because of all the rave ratings. So that leads me into my initial impressions. And then also, for anyone listening, you may already know kind of the core of what this film is about. But officially, in the synopsis and the trailers, they haven't really said exactly what happens. We will get into that light spoiler in the overall, in our final section. We'll give you a heads up when we do that. But so for anyone who's going into this movie blind, we won't spoil anything yet, but we will in our review score section. Just a light kind of thing that I think everyone knows about. I mean, it's super obvious, but just in case. But anyway, so my initial impressions, I don't think it, well, it was a weird vibe. It's really hard to explain, but the only thing I could relate it to is like, I have a friend that me and this friend have been like sharing music with each other. And like, there's some songs that I can agree that they're like good work, and it's like a good song, good composition, good everything, good lyrics. But there's like, it's always with music where you just don't vibe to it. It's like there's just something about the sound that just doesn't click, and it's not anything in specific. And for me, the vibe of this movie, it like just really kept throwing me off. Like you're gonna throw out some movie similarities, and I think all the movies that you're gonna throw out here in a minute, I thought like they all nailed the vibe that I wasn't even sure really what this movie was going for. A lot of the times, just feeling like it's a very tricky tightrope that they're walking, like between, because there are horror elements in this film, and that's alluded to in the trailers. And like, I don't think it doesn't go far enough for me in either or direction. Like I was never grossed out. And then I was never laughing, and I was never having fun. So I was like somewhere in the middle, not really enjoying my time. But those are my initial impressions. What were your initial takes?
I definitely I think it's better to describe it maybe as like a dark comedy, because you say, like the horror elements don't really get that horror, like. It's not like a horror movie exactly. But it does have horrifying elements to it that I think are more just kind of not like scary stuff, but more depraved stuff that it's hard to describe without spoiling. But just the dark comedy of it. It really, a couple of scenes especially just really go full absurdity of the depravity of the character, and I really like it. I'll start dropping my movie references. If you American Psycho, it has very strong American Psycho vibes in a couple of scenes and in one of the characters that you could probably figure out. And I really like that. I like taking something really that should be really, really horrifying and disgusting that humans are capable of this. But just, I mean, what can you do about it besides laughing at it? You know, so it's kind of like one of those things. I like that they did that with something this dark. So I like movies. I guess I do have a soft spot for movies like that. And I think the main thing that impressed me was learning afterwards that this was the directorial debut of Mimi Cave.
Yeah.
And even the main actress, Daisy Edgar Jones, like if you look at her IMDb, she's only got like 12 credits.
Yep.
So
And
she's a really
23
new
years
actress. She's 23, yeah.
Yeah.
And her performance, especially in the second half, was really good, like really solid, and made it a few scenes really interesting. Like even rewatching it today, I was scrolling through a few of the scenes, conversation, kind of one-on-one scenes between the two main characters. And I mean, besides the fact that I think it's really well written, the performances really make it more interesting than it should be.
Yeah.
Just kind of balancing all the emotions that one would feel in a situation that dire was really interesting to me. And with the personalities, the strange personalities, obviously, of these characters, or the main character. So yeah, I don't know. I think it did a pretty good job of balancing it, or just staying in that like dark comedy tone throughout, but making it funny, but like laughing in an uncomfortable way because of the situation. So I don't know. I think it really nailed it in most of the places where it needed to. I do think the ending, they sort of dropped the ball at near the very, very end of the movie. But like everything else, I think the build up, it's one of those slow build ups to a reveal. And I think it did that whole thing very well. As you just slowly are uncovering, red flags, as it builds up to a reveal about the main character. And we'll go into that more, I guess. So I think it did a lot of things really well. And I was just very impressed that this was a first time director doing this. And it reminded me of other first time directorial debut kind of horror movies that I was really impressed with, like Raw. We reviewed Titan, but Raw was I'm gonna butcher the name, but Julia Ducournau, I think, right? Yeah, that her first movie, which was very similar to this, like character focused horror movie, with horror elements, but similar themes. And then Swallow. I don't know if you've heard of that movie or seen it, but it's another came out in 2019, and it's another one of those that I just randomly saw on some, online. I was like, I'm going to try watching that, and I was like super impressed by it for a first time director. And it would also kind of like a suspenseful, psychological kind of movie. And it just, I don't know, these movies make me think that there's so much. And after listening to the podcast, the recent Cinefirm podcast about Doctor Strange, and just thinking about all the, the movies that come out in theaters now, just all these huge, big budgets, Marvel extravaganzas that are just mainly about the special effects and the giant cast of characters and cameos and stuff. I don't know. My vibe is like these more lower budget, low to mid budget movies that are really focused on a few characters and just nail an interesting concept, like sci-fi or horror kind of concept that have some kind of psychological elements to it. So yeah, I really like movies like that are kind of minimalist, and you're really impressed with how much they did with so little. And I feel like this is one of those movies. So I like to highlight these kind of movies when I notice them.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with the technical feat of this film. I think I'm going to mispronounce his name, but my boy Ari Aster, his cinematographer that he went to film school with, DP'd this film. Powell, I'm not going to try his last name. But,
yeah.
but the visuals of this, and I mean, like shot on digital, but like Powell just has a way of shooting digital. I mean, Hereditary and Midsommar were both
Yes.
digital as well, and they both look just beautiful and exquisite. And just there were scenes in here that were just like really stunning to see, like composition, lighting, the set
Yeah.
designs.
Yeah.
And like I loved every scene individually, but there was, and I guess it just has to do with the overall tone. Like I guess that's my only real issue is, I mean, it's both the script and the overall direction. I don't know. Like it, I guess for me, I just needed it to be a little more American Psycho or more dark comedy. Like I feel like it was kind of in the middle, and I don't know. Maybe it was just my expectations, which we'll get into more when we reveal the core conceit of this. But I wanted to ask you, like, what you thought about all the technical stuff, like
Oh man.
cinematography, editing, and all
Yeah.
that.
The cinematography, yeah, is super it's way extra compared to any
Yeah,
other movie of this budget, kind of horror suspense movie that you would randomly find on a streaming service. Like it goes above and beyond. Even rewatching it today, I after learning who the cinematographer was, I was like, damn, like it is like even little scenes, every shot is made to be sort of interesting,
hmm,
way more than it needed to be. So yeah, it's really nice. It just it looks really probably more expensive than it really was. You know, I think it was only
yeah.
like 15 to 20 million was the budget.
Wow. Yeah,
But yeah, it looks really good. It looks like a. That's why it's so surprising that it was a first time director. It's like this looks like just a polish, like one of those directors that has done a bunch of movies like this and just knows how to make it. Um, but yeah, definitely mostly due to the cinematography, but also, I mean, the director's choices,
yeah,
like the just balancing the cinematography and the music also in several scenes really added to my enjoyment of the dark comedy aspect of it. The kind of 80s style 80s music that they chose, and I mean the writing I think is really good in this movie. I didn't look to see if this writer Lauren Kahn had done anything else, but she has 26 writing credits
wow,
on IMDb, but they're mostly shorts. So I
yeah,
think this is kind of her first big. There's a movie called Ibiza that I have not seen, never heard. Oh, it's a TV movie. I'm seeing,
yeah,
but yeah, I don't know. I think it was written really well, especially the conversation scenes between the two main characters were like written, like I said, like extra, like there's subtext to everything that they're saying. There's like double meanings to things. There was like a lot of thought put into the conversations, the writing in this movie. So there were lots of places in this movie, which we might get to, where I felt like I was afraid it was going to get really lazy and kind of slide into a just a cliche of the genre and get like really boring. There were several moments where it could have done that, but instead it kind of went in a new direction, did something that was like actually realistic that you don't see in horror movies
yeah.
very often, that I was really happy with. So there was nothing in the movie that really threw me off as like super unrealistic, or you know how like a big horror trope is characters making really stupid decisions that you're like, why would you do that? There's a lot of
Yeah,
places where they
yeah,
could have done that here to advance the plot, but like they kept it smart to where the characters were basically being realistic, like real people in these situations. So I thought that was cool.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I
and,
agree with
and
that.
just the suspense, like the fact that the first 30 minutes, it really is like a slow build up to the reveal, whereas like a lot of horror movies or
Oh
cheap
yeah,
horror movies that you see, they'll throw a scene in at the very beginning that, you know, to get the audience like, oh, look at that, you know, to scare you, like a
yeah.
quick scare at the beginning to keep you interested, where this movie didn't go that cheap and they actually built up to it,
Ooh.
which makes it more satisfying once you get to it. So
Well,
I thought that was really nice.
there was one moment, and this is so I agree with like the character choices, like the choices they make, and we'll get into that a little more in the spoilers. But
Yeah,
just
yeah.
one thing I want to kind of say before we reveal the very light spoiler that takes place in the first 30 minutes of the film. Oh, regarding the horror thing, there was a little hint towards it because there's a well, I don't want to say the specific scene.
Yeah, we can talk. Yeah,
I guess what I wanted to talk about briefly is God, it was like a year ago. I went on the dating apps, and I think this film is a beautiful, horrifying mirror of reality. Like as soon as this film started, and it's in the synopsis, like she is not doing well in these dating apps. I don't think anyone is, but it sucks. It's like a black hole of just despair and annoyance, and then just awkwardness and
yeah.
The way this film captures that in the first 30 minutes, I thought was very was very fun and interesting, and also like very anxiety inducing. So I loved all that kind of stuff because, and I'll get into the very specifics in the spoilers, but I think people who don't know anything about it have had a good 16 minutes of all right. Maybe I should watch this movie. My final take is.
I mean, the main character or the main Sebastian, not the main character, but Sebastian Stan. Damn, great actor. Like in my opinion, great performance from him. That was super interesting. Take on this character that we've seen in other movies, but I think he did it really well in an original way that was interesting. And so if you're a fan of him, not just from the Marvel movies, but I saw I, Tonya recently. And just randomly, I decided to watch that because I heard good things about it. And he's really good in that. Just plays a really conflicted, interesting character, kind of enigma of a character. And then just this year, Pam and Tommy is a TV miniseries that came out about Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee. The sex tape that came out in the 90s. And he's Tommy Lee in that. Yeah. I did. Oh, wow. And he's really good in that. Like he's really great at playing characters that are sort of like two-faced. Like he's very charming, but also menacing, and scary. And so, but then you still feel sorry for him in certain ways. And so, I don't know. I think he's a really great actor. And I saw an interview where the director wanted him based on seeing I, Tonya. And I was like, oh, that totally makes sense. Cause she saw that in him. So that's cool.
Yeah, I do like Sebastian Stan, but and the performance him and Daisy give in the movie, I think they're both great performances, just the tone doesn't click with me. But it was one thing I wanted to bring up that I heard in interviews is that, and I've kind of noticed this in his work, is that in the interview he's like, I actually prefer like if I'm kind of not the lead of the film, but like a secondary. And then I like it when the lead is a woman because I like playing off that energy and like being
interesting.
Either like a succubus to that character or like an evil, like, like he likes being like a negative or a positive towards like a leading woman. And like when, like you bringing up I, Tonya, and then like the Pam and Tommy thing, and then this, like, and I think he really works well in that set. Like, I don't know if, other than like the Winter Soldier, I think he would be a great like Winter Soldier, like have his own film. But I think he really like does work in this capacity as like almost like feeding off a leading woman's energy or like propping or helping like prop up their performance. Because like he was like one of my favorite parts about I, Tonya, and like Margot Robbie did a fantastic job as well. But like his energy contrasting against hers was like a perfect element. So it's really cool that some actors, are aware of like their pros and cons and they kind of work in that field. Like I wonder if what's his face is the same way, like him being in Wonder Woman. One of the Chris's, I forgot his name.
Chris Pine.
Yeah, but Sebastian's doing it very well in like these artsy movies like that you're talking about. Like a lower budget, more focused on a character piece. So it's really cool that he's doing that. Okay, so for anyone who doesn't know what the core horror concept of this film is, you can tune out now and go watch the movie. Give us a review and comment and all that kind of stuff. But if you know what the movie's about, because we've kind of been sidestepping around it, we're not going to spoil any specifics. But, okay, so 3, 2, 1. The film is about cannibalism.
Right.
And I don't know, man. Like, I think that expectation really kind of threw me for a loop because I don't really think, like, I don't know. Like, I guess what you're getting from the film is that it's not really meant to discuss as much as maybe I was anticipating.
A little bit. I think it is meant. I think that was the intention of the creators for it to be disgusting in certain
Yeah.
parts, but they did not go. Yeah, maybe you were expecting something much more extreme, maybe, but yeah, they. I mean, but I'll admit, like it was enough to make me kind of nauseous feeling at certain points. Just, but it was more. It was more the concept of it, more than what you're seeing on screen. To me,
Yeah.
for some reason, it was more just the concept of someone being okay with this, and that just that humans are capable of that.
Yeah.
And just it's the juxtaposition of their or his, cavalier like attitude towards it, and then seeing what they're doing. I liked that because it was very disgusting to think about. But they made it funny also. They made it funny enough that it kind of relieved you a little bit to laugh at it, but at the same time you should be horrified at what you're seeing or hearing.
See, I think that's what killed my vibe. It felt like, honestly, and like she comes from the director, comes from music videos. Like, it honestly felt like there was so many sequences to me that felt like music videos. And I guess that was the decompression that you enjoyed from the movie. And I think maybe that's the stuff that really threw me off because
God.
all the serious stuff is good. Like, you're talking, and we'll get into the spoilers, but there's scenes where both of these performances are like really realistic and grounded. And then, like you're saying, we see some fun cannibalism stuff, if that could be categorized as fun. And then I'm like, wait, what am I don't know. Like, I think there could have been a way to do both. Like, it kind of reminds me of the house that Jack built. Like, that movie constantly disgusted me. And then there was funny parts that I started to find myself laugh at because of the ridiculousness. Like, not to spoil anything in the movie, but he has like OCD, and it's like, oh, he's an evil serial killer with OCD.
This is the house. The house that Jack built.
And then I started sympathizing with his OCD element, and I'm like, wait, I should not feel bad for this guy who just slaughtered people. And like, I was kind of wanting that kind of energy, and like, I think American Psycho kind of does that too. Not sympathy, but like disgust. But then you see him having a great time, and you're like, what the fuck am I watching?
Yeah, so. I think it hit that vibe. I feel like if someone really likes American Psycho, which I do, like, I think it hits that vibe in a few scenes enough to make it, enjoy. It's not the whole mood of the movie, but it is just like a few scenes that really take it over the edge of being kind of absurd with how the juxtaposition of the comedy and the horror. So I thought it worked pretty well.
So I was gonna ask, did you watch this alone or did you watch it with someone?
No.
All right, that's what I was gonna ask because like I think the reason why I'm not a fan of horror movies, like, I feel like horror movies are movies you watch with someone else. Like,
really?
Like, yeah, I don't know. Like, there's like I imagine y'all watching it and like maybe y'all laughing together and then being like, oh, that's gross as crap, or like, oh, this is, like, there's that like almost back and forth kind of receptive energy.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering if because like, even like, I was like thinking back, like every time someone goes to watch a horror movie, like those are typically like the date movies, where you take someone else out and y'all have that like little experience.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I don't. I don't think. Yeah, I'm opposed to that
theory
because I'm like, what about all the solo people that want to enjoy horror movies? You don't have to have someone else watching it with you. You can enjoy it just as much, internally.
Okay. Well, one last thing I wanted to say before our overall statements and review. Usually before these podcasts, I'll listen to other people and like try to get some ideas to talk about. And there's one podcast that I absolutely love, and it's called Too Scary Didn't Watch. And it's these three women, and they break down. One of them breaks down a movie story. Like, she'll break down the beats of this film to the other two women, and then they don't like watching scary movies. Like they hate it. And then while she's reiterating the plot points of said film, you know, they're reacting and they're like playing off and like talking about it. It's an amazing podcast. And I just wanted to say, like, the best part about watching this movie was listening to their podcast about it, because they bring up a lot of awesome opinions and takes and like ideas and all kinds of stuff. But it was like super fun. And then like how you were saying, like, or I don't really think the film goes that gross, but then like someone telling you what happens in this film and like the words that are said, like without any of the, like, for me, that kind of ruined it for me was like the music video kind of style and the song music choices. Just hearing the plot like read out by someone, I was like, God, that's a hardcore story. So so if anyone didn't like the movie, or you don't want to see cannibalism, I would recommend that podcast. And then if you like what the plot points are, I think you'd end up enjoying the film too. So I just wanted to give that little shout out. It's an awesome podcast. Yeah. And okay, so final overall statement and review. You go first.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would give it a strong 7 out of 10. I mean, it's not
okay.
You know, it's not like a super deep movie or anything, or like it's not like it's like you know, breaking super new ground, but it's just a very strong movie for what it is, like, surprisingly. So you know, I was like, yeah, this movie deserves some views, and I would like to watch, like, if I could just watch 20, like if an AI could just create like 20 movies like this, you know, similar mid to low budget, like the movies like Raw, like Swallow, like this, that I could just watch. I love this specific budget and genre and focus. So I think people who also like that would really like this movie.
My final overall statement, I think it I think it was kind of a bad movie, in my opinion, just for my taste. I think technically it is hitting all the marks that you've brought up. I think there's just too many music choices, and which is so weird because the first music choice is Blood Orange, is like one of my favorite artists. But I don't know, it just felt like, and then like other scenes of them like dancing, and like it just felt like a little too. Maybe I just don't like romantic movies either. So like this is like a double negative. It's romantic and there's horror, and
Gotcha.
I only like anti-romance and I only like horror if it's truly disgusting. But so just for the vibe, I just didn't click with me. I didn't enjoy myself. I didn't really laugh, and I wasn't really disgusted or horrified. So it kind of just failed and kind of collapsed for me.
Gotcha.
But cinematography is amazing. Anyone who even likes cinematography, I think it's a worthy watch. If you have Hulu, like, it's not even a long movie, so I think it'd be a good time. But yeah, so I would give it a 4 out of 10.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Damn, it's cold. It's cold.
Yeah. Not fresh for me. But
not fresh.
So that concludes our review portion of Fresh. If you don't want to be spoiled, you can pause the podcast now. And while you do that, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, or comment on what you thought about the film or our takes on it. And you can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or email us at cineverm@yahoo.com. And you can also check out our snazzy website, cineverm.com, where we also have written reviews. And speaking of reviews, be sure to check out my personal YouTube channel, A Lonely Critic, where I do weekly film reviews solo. But now, let's get into the spoilers of this movie. I guess I want to start out with you. Like, what were your big takeaways from the film? Like the big moments that you really enjoyed?
I mean, I guess the whole build up, like you were talking about, like we could just start at the beginning, sort of. Like, I mean, obviously I think it did a good job of showing like you were saying, the awkwardness of the dating apps and all that stuff. I mean, the first scene with that douchebag that she dates is just such a great combination of a lot of stories that I've heard of, just the, like, where you're just like, does this guy actually exist? Are there guys out there that are that oblivious and whatever on a date? Yeah. But then you know, I've seen videos on Reddit or whatever, just YouTube, you see the videos that these people do exist, and you're like, oh my god, girls have to deal with that every day.
Yeah, and it
Going
like
on dates.
yeah, that is the worst. Like I was cringing though. Like that was the horror peak for me. Was like, oh my god, like I don't, I consider myself lucky. I never even got to go on a date with anyone from these apps. But even the like messaging part for me was grueling. And there's one scene after that I really loved. Just her like she was like working from home or at an office or something, and she's like constantly like pulling up her phone and like swiping on people. That's the thing that made me break, is that I realized like you become addicted to the dating app. It's almost like playing like the lottery, like, oh, let's see who else is available or not available. And seeing that, I was like, oh my god, thank god I like got out of that, because it's just like a sinkhole of time. But yeah, like how you were saying, that first date was so so generically awful. And then like the guy with his I forgot exactly what the comment was, but his like sexist comment, like women used to dress so pretty and like now it's all baggy clothing.
You would look so good in a dress. Yeah.
I was like, fuck, dude.
Yeah, very weird. Well, I guess we could talk about like the build up to the dates, the first time that she meets the guy, Sebastian, or whatever his name is in the movie, Steve. And she goes on first she meets him in the grocery store, and then she goes on like
so
3 dates.
The grocery store. Okay, so this is the beginning of my issues, because I liked that first date. I like how it was written. I liked the lines. The ending line where they're like about to leave, and then I forgot what she says, and then he gets all like pissed off, and he's like, "Oh, like fuck you! You're like no one's gonna like you." And then he like says the B word and then like walks off or whatever. And then she's like, "Oh what the hell?" Like
this is the asshole. Yeah.
But she was totally like wanting to leave him, and then he like does the reverse psychology guilt trip, whatever. But yeah, so when we get to the first, and it's like the meet cute, right? Like at the grocery store. Like I don't know, all their dialogue didn't. It felt too written for me. Like I liked their performance and their delivery, but. Yeah, like the whole like he like stops and then he's like, you know what? I need to get your number, and I don't know, like that whole.
You don't think I don't know. I could see that actually happening. I don't know.
Really?
I mean, those situations are kind of scripted. I mean, like a guy. Especially in this movie, like he was actively planning this. He was on the hunt, so I'm sure he had a whole scenario. He had the whole thing in his head, all the lines ready to go. Yeah. So I feel like, I don't know, he had that. I feel like from her side, it didn't seem scripted to me, but I don't know.
Okay.
I was a little surprised. I was kind of like, man, if I was a girl, would I even give this guy my number? But I mean, I get, even if you didn't, just to get rid of him, you would, I guess. What's the word? You could just block his number, but
It's interesting, like listening to the Too Scary Didn't Watch ladies. They talked about how, and this is supporting your good writing thing, so I don't know why I'm bringing it up, but they brought up like the way like guys can kind of like what women are like looking for is like a safe, comfortable dude, right? And like he does these like little mini like, hey, I'm a safe, comfortable guy. So like at the end of that meet cute, he talks about like, oh, I gotta go. Well, he even he brings it up initially with like, I have my nephews and another child, like a nephew and a niece or something. I forgot. Right. It was like a nephew and a niece, and it's like, they don't believe me that these taste like cotton candy. So you're like immediately establishing I'm a family
oriented,
and like young children. Exactly. And then when he's leaving, is like, you know what? Like my nephew and niece, that's what it was, nephew and niece. They're not gonna believe me that I just met this like pretty girl. Like could I just like, and that is like a very. Like, that's what a stalker kind of rapist dude would do, is like establish all these positives for you, like subconsciously by throwing them at you. So that was like a huge, cool note that they brought up that supports that it's a good script.
It seems very believable to me. That's that a guy would come up with this whole scenario. And if he's charming enough, like this actor is, he could pull it off, and it would work.
I think, I mean, I obviously don't know or can't tell, but I think Sebastian Stan looks kind of like ugly in this movie.
Really? What the
Yeah.
hell? No.
There's some,
I
yeah.
I disagree, but yeah. I
don't
don't know. Do you
He's,
think
he's
do you think of that of him in general or just in this movie?
no, like maybe I don't know. There's something like maybe I just haven't seen him with short hair, but like I remember in
Oh.
Winter Soldier, I was like, this dude looks cool,
Uh-huh.
and then in this, I'm like,
Gotcha.
wow, he looks old.
Oh,
And
weird.
yeah,
No.
I know there's
Huh.
like a huge age gap between them, so like maybe that was throwing
True.
me off. But
True. But
I don't
she
know.
did, yeah, she looks really young, but no, he's a handsome man.
Okay,
I
so after this grocery store meet, they go on their first date at the bar. What did you think about like that whole interaction and sequence?
yeah,
Like,
I
was that
liked it.
still believable?
I liked the editing of it, and there was like there was a transition where it's like, that's very realistic of meeting someone at a bar, even not on a date, where you've got the initial stage where you're not intoxicated, not very drunk, and everything's sort of a little bit awkward and stilted. They're asking each other the getting to know you questions and whatever. And then there was like a transition, like kind of like a blurry transition. And then it was a bunch of like really close ups on their faces, to where you could tell they've had their drinks and now they're more comfortable and they were sitting at a booth instead of the bar. And it
Yeah.
was interesting. I think it did that really well. It showed like that transition of them getting way more comfortable with each other. Yeah, I thought that was cool. I thought it was well done.
Yeah.
And their banter too, which comes up later. I like how like the style of their humor with each other comes up later in the movie, but in a completely different context. I really liked how they did that from a writing perspective. Like, they very quickly form like a banter with each other, that brings them together. Like they have a similar sense of humor,
Yeah,
on
like
their
very
dates.
dry, wry,
Yeah,
irony.
sarcastic, right?
Yeah.
Quippy. Yeah. And so I thought that was cool how they weave that into that type of humor later in the scenes where they're eating humans. It's just hilariously opposed to what's happening. It
Yeah.
just makes it, to me, it makes it even darker and more depraved. And I like that. But yeah. Anyway, I thought the progression was realistic. But you start to see, I like how they start to put in the red flags and they have the best friend to kind of start being like, okay, that's kind of weird. That's sort of weird. But like, of course, the main character is whatever, has been put under his spell. So she's not seeing any red flags. And I thought all that was pretty realistic. Like her ignoring the red flags and the friend seeing it and, it kind of seeing how it accelerated up until at the end of the third date where he actually brings up, oh, let's run away together. And she shows realistic hesitation, but at that point she's already kind of like under his spell and convinced that he's a safe guy and does something that if you hadn't been on all those dates with this guy, you would be like, no, I'm not getting in a car with a dude that I barely know and driving to a place that he's not going to tell me where we're going. And then, oh, let's stop by my house that's isolated in the middle of the woods. It's like, no, you're not going to do that. But it makes sense that she does.
Yeah, and I love the best friend. I forgot her character's name, but I love their
Molly,
whole
I think.
and their whole interaction and stuff. And it made me realize like the importance of having like a best friend in real life.
That's the whole message of this movie. It's like
Yeah.
bros over hoes, but like the female version, whatever that
Yeah.
would be. That's the entire message of this movie, which is pretty funny.
Yeah, and I was like, damn. Like if I mean, luckily I'm a dude, so I don't ever have to probably deal with this realistically.
Which is another big message of the movie.
Yeah.
Like how females constantly have to be thinking about this.
Yeah, that was one of the scenes that I really loved in the very beginning, right after her bad date with the Chad dude. She's walking back to her car and she feels like she's being followed, starts running, and then it's like just a dude with the I love how it's like the most unintimidating thing ever is like a dude with a baby strapped to his chest.
Yeah. That was kind of funny.
So that was brilliant choice. But
The
then it's
exact
also
opposite.
yeah, like and one thing the women in the podcast brought up, Too Scary Didn't Watch, was like the worst thing about being a woman, like being afraid and like, you know, walking down a dark alley and there's like just someone following you. Like your mind immediately goes into like, is this dude a creep? Is he like a perv? Because like all this shit like really does happen like all the time. And they were talking
Yeah.
about like at least monthly, I have like this weird thing happen and I get scared. And then I start having to go into like, all right, I need to like escape or call a friend or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was just like so interesting how this movie like had those moments and stuff. And then like the best friend, I mean, I don't think she meant this, but you know, she's like, you need to get out of your shell. You need to like, because it's implied that she hasn't dated anyone in so long. And then I love the phrase that she's like, you just got to say fuck it, you know, like have fuck it energy and like all this kind of stuff. And then
Yeah.
totally the bad advice, because I think that's what made it believable or logical that she would go on this, you know, excursion with this random guy, because she's like, yeah, fuck it. Like, this feels nice. Like, I met him in person. We went on a nice date. We got drunk, had sex. And then, like, now, like, 2 positive yeses. So why wouldn't the third yes be good? Oh, but the thing I was going to bring up that the women brought up is, like, the worst thing about those situations where you're scared is that usually it's nothing, and then you feel like shit and you feel stupid and you're like, why was I even freaking out? You know, like it was nothing. Or it's bad and then you're like, oh, why did I allow myself to get in this situation? So it's like, it's always like a lose-lose and very draining, like emotional thing that they have to go through. Like all, like if you go on a date and then you see a red flag, like you're saying, and you still go through with it and you go sleep with the guy or something, and then he turns out to be like a weirdo and like tries to do something with you that you don't want, and then you have to leave, and then you're like, why did I allow myself to get into that? So it's just like a lot of pressure, and they were saying like the film really does deal with that in this movie like very well. Like it's like they were saying, like they were like, oh my god, I've like been there and feeling those exact same feelings all the time.
Yeah, that makes sense. It did seem very realistic to that. Yeah.
So like all the like, just broadly speaking, like all the women or woman empowerment like kind of stuff, like with the best friend being kind of like the hero, like the like I do like how in the middle of the film it kind of like transitions into like almost like a detective type of thing. But we can get into that once we hit that. But I guess like to start, what did you think about like the roofie scene and like how, you know, that whole introduction to his house or cabin or whatever the hell his house is in the middle of the woods? Like, what did you think about that whole, because that's when we get the like title credits, right?
Finally, yeah. Yep. Like right after he roofies her. Yeah, I thought it was cool. I thought it was just funny how, well, I heard the director say it's like a little Shining reference there. The overhead shots of them driving through this winding road in these dense woods, you know, and it's like, you're just like, okay, wait a second. I just thought it did a good job of, okay, like if you haven't gotten it yet, this is like the main character should be getting a lot of red flags now, and she isn't. So I thought it was cool. It did great of like gradually building it up to like, okay, you're now, you know, the audience is like, look, you're in a house that doesn't even have cell service. You know, she mentions that, and he's just like, oh, yo, man, that went out again. And then, you know, handing her, oh, this is my special mixed drink, you know?
Yeah.
And then when she starts getting woozy, you know, I guess it's a classic like horror thing. Like I'm just yelling at the screen, like, why are you not running? Like, get up and run. Like it's over. Don't you like go excuse yourself to the bathroom and dial 911. Like, well, of course there's no cell service, but like run, just try. I don't know, do something. As soon as you realize that you're passing out from drinking a little drink, like, but I get it. Like I understand. Maybe it makes sense. It's also realistic because I guess you would feel stupid in that situation, so you don't want to believe that it's actually happening. Yeah. So you would naturally, lots of people would just naturally do nothing because they don't want to believe that it's actually happening to them. Yeah. So that's what kept me from thinking that was sort of unrealistic. But
Yeah,
I don't know. What did you think about that?
yeah, I actually think that was because I'm thinking back to the last time I ate an edible gummy,
Hmm.
and I did not want to get high off of it. I was
Oh,
just like trying to go to sleep, and I ate like half of it. And then when it hit, I was just standing because I was washing dishes right before I took it, and I was just standing in front of the sink with the water running. And my roommate was like, "You've been standing there for 5 minutes," and
yeah.
I was like, "Oh no!" And like the only thing in my mind was like, I was just stuck in this weird loop of thought. Like, I'm not feeling anything. Am I feeling something? What am I feeling? Why? Like, why is
What
everything
is
so
feeling?
loud? Yeah, like it was just in this loop. So that's what I felt like her character because it was like kind of like zoning out, and then
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I don't know what roofies are actually like, but yeah. But yeah, I like that scene. The thing that I didn't like about well, actually, this is going back a little bit. The thing I didn't like about the second date at the bar, I don't,
Okay.
and this is like the whole music video thing is like, so they start drinking, and then I guess you like this part where it kind of cut, and then we started seeing some like fade ins and fade outs, and like
Yeah.
close ups, and like there was a song playing, and it's like seeing them smiling and like seeing them laugh and drink. Like I don't like mini montages in movies for
Oh,
some
okay.
reason. Like
No.
instead, I think it's so much more impactful to have a really quality scene. Like I was like constantly thinking about I'm thinking of ending things because I was like, why am I not feeling this connection between these two people? Because I was like, their acting is good, their performances are good, like they're giving like I feel like I should be feeling something. And for some reason I wasn't. And I think it was just those sequences of, very nice, beautiful shots, but the way they were composed together just took me way out of the movie because then I was like realizing I was watching a movie where I think in like the worst person in the world, there's a sequence where she meets the movie like she has two connections in that film. And those two romantic connections I think are better than even this single connection. And I was like
Hmm.
trying to figure out like why does it work so much better in that movie for me? And I think it's because each time in that movie she meets someone, it's a very long, extended introduction to that character's traits and personality, and then
Yeah.
they're both connecting over something. And then there's the slow mo, montage thing, where this was kind of like in the middle of that. Like I didn't feel connected yet. But yeah, so that was kind of my issue with that.
I
And
think
that
it's
continues on
well.
within the movie.
Hmm. I just think it's because like they had to sort of. I mean, there's so much more that happens in the movie, so they just didn't have enough time to do that. I feel
Yeah,
like so you gotta kind of simulate the time passing, just because
yeah,
that's not the central focus of the movie. It's more about what happens after the reveal. So that's my
yeah,
that's my defense of that.
yeah,
Because the worst person in the world, like the entire movie is just about those relationships. Basically, it's just
yeah.
about
That's
those
true.
two, the relationships. But
Yeah,
yeah,
but
I just think they had to. So I'm fine with montages when you need them, to kind of simulate time passing, just to get the gist of it.
yeah, like I
But
was starting to go back and thinking, like even Tarantino's music montages, like those are like I think that's why I kind of hated Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Like watching this made me realize, like, oh, that's why I didn't connect with that movie because in between each of these big scene set pieces is just like people driving and like I don't know, like I don't feel any nostalgia for like I actually dislike music in movies, like songs,
okay,
like
I
like
think we're getting to like a core bias. It seems like that you
yeah,
have
yeah.
against
This is a
music
revelation.
and music videos usage
Yeah,
in movies.
yeah. That I don't like music videos in my movies. But one thing I did like about this. I just came up with a genius idea. So anyone
Hmm.
listening, if you're ever in a situation where you feel awkward and someone hands you a drink and they're also drinking, what you need to do is you say, "Oh, can I actually have your drink?" And then if they say no, then that means something's fucked up. And then if they do take
True.
your drink, then you like no one is ever gonna roofie themselves. So like I think
Nope.
from now on I'm gonna always do that just to see what
Look at
happens.
that little safety tip.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah,
Um,
that would be that. Yeah, yeah.
But since we're in this house sequence, one thing I did love, and I kind of mentioned in the review, is the production design. All the art and the paintings and the design and decor of this house is beautiful. Like it kind of was giving me
Yeah.
slight. I mean, not as big as a set like a Parasite was, but like it was giving me those like this is very designed, very beautiful. Like this is the kind of house I would love to live in. Like there was like rooms where it was like floor to ceiling, wall to wall painting. I'm like, oh, that's my dream. Like I want that.
It kind of gave me Ex Machina vibes too, like the
Yes.
fancy house in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah.
which is cool. Yeah, I liked the. I don't know if you noticed. Well, you probably did. It's not that subtle, but when she's looking at the big painting, and she's getting closer to it, and there's like a little detail that she's focusing on, and it doesn't show it for a really long time, which I thought was cool. They didn't make it super obvious, but it was like a little like a tooth. It's like a human tooth embedded into the painting that she was
Oh,
looking at.
shit.
And I thought that was so cool because I was like, whoa, okay, that's really creepy. And if she had just lingered on that detail for like a few more seconds or asked about it, well, he would have just brushed it off and said, oh, yeah, this is a modern art piece that I got. But I thought that was cool because that was extra creepy just to notice that. But
Oh my gosh.
yeah, so then, I mean, at this point, when she's passed out and it shows the title sequences, I thought
I love the title
invent-
sequences.
Yeah,
way.
I invented like a more interesting version of the movie in my head, and they didn't. This is the only time that the movie didn't do what I hoped that it would do, which
Yeah.
is I was kind of hoping that they would pull a Psycho and just that he would actually just kill her, and there would be like
Yep.
like the title sequence would be him just chopping her up, and that's
Yeah.
it. And then the rest of the movie would be the best friend finding this guy and becoming captured and then having to escape. So it would just completely just the first character would just be it would be a huge fake out, psycho moment. But on the other hand, I understand that would then you would have just completely wasted that character and their build up. So,
Hey, I mean, Scream did it famously.
Yeah,
in like 5
true.
minutes.
Right. Yeah, it's a less investment. Yeah.
But supposedly,
Psycho, I
like
wonder how long it was
that whole
before.
movie was anchored. Because I forgot what the actress's name, but she was a very big actress at the time. Like all the trailers only had her in it, so like everyone
Janet
thought,
Leigh, I think.
yeah, like I remember that was a huge thing. But yeah, like I was having those feelings too. Like so at this part of the movie, like once she wakes, like because honestly, this is where I got really disappointed because I went in thinking cannibal movie, and I was expecting to see multiple. I mean, there are multiple women that he gets, but I don't know. Like it became a very like enclosed movie, and I thought it was going to become a little wider. And like when she woke up in the dungeon, well, not dungeon, but the cell that's in the basement or whatever, tied up, I really got disappointed. I was like, oh, I don't want a hostage kind of movie because like I was thinking back like like Split and other movies that have like just for me that is such a boring like little mini genre of films, like even like the Hostel and Saw movies. Like I get nothing from because there's like very limited movement and character development and stuff. And I mean we'll unpack some of that here, but that's where I really like just lost complete interest in the film is when she's like he starts talking about he's gonna eat her slowly, and I was like, oh, I don't know, like that just wasn't what I was wanting from this movie. Like I thought it was gonna be a series, like how you were saying, like maybe we were just gonna continually see women come in and him like do whatever and like it be different but similar each time until like one woman or multiple women discovered him or freed the other women or something like that. So what did you think about the actual reveal? Because I think you probably like that whole sequence, like when she wakes up chained and that whole back and forth between Stan and her.
Yeah, that's where I started to feel that. I don't know. I guess I like that kind of horror where it's more about like less. It's the opposite of the show don't tell. It's more like the tell don't show. Horror is like scarier to me when someone is just matter of. I don't know what it is. That psychopathic horror is the most scary to me, when you just have a person that's just saying what he's gonna do, to the main character, and in the current moment there's nothing she could do to escape it. It's like that's horror, that's really scary. And then I guess I like the kind of genre of captive movie, because it's
Really?
one of the best things about horror movies is putting yourself in the character's shoes and being like, okay, what would I do in this situation? And what would my strategy be? So I was thinking that, like, what would my strategy be at this point? Like, and I think mostly she does the smartest thing she could do, which is just like try to use the knowledge that she knows that he actually kind of likes her better than his other victims. So she has to like use that. That's her only way out, So I thought that whole aspect of it was fun to kind of think, okay, she's doing this pretty smart. She's doing what she needs to do. And I was like, it makes you root for her. And yeah, I don't know. But then they have those scenes that I know you didn't like, that focused on him, where he's just having fun being a cannibal entrepreneur. And I thought those were hilarious, like especially the first scene of him in the kitchen with the leg, just and making the packages with the 80s music in the background. I love that so much. Like that made me smile so much, because it's like, because I just it made it so grotesque,
nonchalant,
that he's just. It was full American Psycho, Patrick Bateman, dancing and chopping someone up, while listening to Huey Lewis in the news, kind of thing.
See, I thought it was gonna dig so much harder. So like, as soon as my initial disappointment of it being a captive kind of genre thing, I was like, all right. And then like he got that like thigh. It was very ungory and very like I was wanting, like, I think the 80s music and his like excitement would have gone very well with a very bloody extreme. Like I kind of wanted to see him cut people up, and me like, oh shit, like I don't want to look at this. Like I wanted to cringe and then also be kind of smiling because it's contradictory, like I think the house that Jack built did that a lot, like it was just like, oh my God, he's literally cutting a woman's boob off, and I don't want to watch this. And then like, I mean, that's implied that he does it here. Like I was just so confused on why, like even the leg that we see him cut up into pieces, like it's very clean and it's very like, I mean, obviously he freezes them and all that kind of stuff, but I don't know, like I didn't feel like a true operation. And well, I was going to say something else and I forgot. Like I don't know. I just wish there was maybe a little more. I don't know. Like I wanted to have at least one gross. I mean, there are some gross out moments later on, but it was more sound effects than anything. Oh my gosh! But yeah, I was gonna say something else and I totally forgot. But so
I don't know. Yeah, I'm trying to think what to say. That I don't know. I think just what I said earlier works. It works for me for some reason. Yeah. I like, and it doesn't have to be super. I mean, it's not like a. I don't know. I think if you start putting any humor in it, it's like if you went super graphic with it, it would kind of suck the humor out of it. But the fact that it isn't super graphic, like, makes you feel okay to laugh at it. I guess I don't know.
That's what I didn't like. Like it didn't go too far. So what I was gonna bring up is like an American Psycho. Like when he goes, like he loses his shit and he's like dancing with like his like fucking see-through killing thing, like it goes off the rails, and it's just so. Or like when he's like having sex and then he's like looking at himself in the mirror, like like that makes me laugh, but it's also extremely uncomfortable and disgusting. And it's just seeing Christian Bale like committing way too much. You're just like that. You stop. And then it's very telling, like that American Psycho, also directed by a woman. But like I was wanting Sebastian Stan to kind of one step, like almost overact a little bit during the sequences of, and he kind of does it like, I don't like, he just doesn't give the energy, but the lines are there. Like if we could just jump forward a little bit, like when she tries to run away to take a shower and stuff. he gets her, he says like, "I'm taking your ass," and like I wish he would have, like
I
just
feel like he did that a lot. Yeah, yeah, that, and then the kitchen scene, and just the jogging. There's a brief which you probably didn't like because it's very music video like and random,
yeah,
like where he's the scene of him jogging.
just
I love that. Yeah, it's just like it was hilarious because he's living his best life from his perspective,
yeah. I
and
did
so it was very very Patrick Bateman. Yeah, just
I did love the
funny.
cut from seeing his wife with missing a leg and then cutting directly
Yes.
into him running. Like,
Oh man, I didn't think about that. Yes.
yeah,
Oh my god, I
it's
didn't even think about
very
that.
yeah. So, like, there's a lot that I love. Like, there's an undeniable like woman's perspective on this that I truly love, like the cuts and like how things are leading into contradictions and stuff. But it's just the music video stuff. Like I would just wish that
I
just
love
doesn't
it.
vibe with me. But one other thing about the whole cannibalism meat thing, because I had asked earlier, like, do you think movies should have a deep metaphor? And like just this film, I think has a lot of potential like deep meanings. Like you could get into the dating thing, which it kind of does, and then you could get into the like weird sexism, like men, putting women on this like weird pedestal. And this is like a very like there's a scene where he's like, women just taste better, which is probably
Yes.
like undeniably false. Like meat would taste exactly the same.
I don't, who
and,
knows?
and then the other thing, I also think it could be like you could kind of backwards metaphor like the meat industry or like meat in general, like eating animals. Because like I was thinking about this weird Swedish film that I watched one time, and you just like the first 20 minutes of the movie, you see in a butcher house how they slaughter cows, and I did not eat meat for like 45 days after watching that scene. It
Uh-huh.
was just the most gruesome, horrifying thing I have ever seen in my life. Like it's horrible.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking like, damn, like that would have been really interesting if you would have done that in this film, but with humans. And then like, well, I mean like like having racks of human bodies, like.
Hmm.
And I think that in like lined up, how like you see in like the Rocky movies, you have like the carcasses kind of lined up, and he's like punching them
Yeah.
and stuff, like that kind of visual, but with human bodies. And it's like, yeah, this is like that we're animals, just like other animals are animals, and like I think that would have been a cool metaphor to get into. But I don't know, I don't think the film really got into it, but like I think that's what my brain started going into. It's like, oh, this would be so cool to like show how like in a very exaggerated way because it's human on human eating, but a lot of vegetarians or vegans feel that like it is disgusting if you really like if you were to have a piece of meat in front of you and you're thinking about or looking at an animal, and there's like I think that she was kind of doing it in the scenes where like, and this is like kind of the sick humor that you were mentioning where they're bringing up names of the people while they're
Yeah.
eating them, and I'm like, god, what the fuck.
Yeah.
But anyways,
Yeah, I don't know. I heard the director say in an interview that she doesn't eat red meat or something, so she's like
oh,
partially, I guess that, but I don't know why she didn't
lean
make
into it
that
a little
a
more.
bigger part of the movie. I guess she just didn't want to focus on that. She was more focused on the like gender
Yeah,
roles and that kind of thing, which was interesting. I think the closest they get to it is in their first dinner scene where she's pretending, trying to play along and be interested in his cannibalism.
yeah,
Uh, and yeah, like the things like that he says about it, like say where he's explaining it in a very heartfelt way, how he got into cannibalism and how he found his community, and it gave him purpose in life. And he says, it's all about giving. And I love that because
yeah.
it's so ironic because he hasn't given anything. It's not like
He's taking.
he has not given any part of his body to be eaten, and he never would. So it's not, he hasn't given anything. He likes it when other people are being used, So I think I heard in interviews also one of the themes she wanted to touch on was like the kind of 1%,
Oh yeah.
basically like economic stuff, like how the 1% of the 1% kind of view the world, and
Yeah.
how how ridiculously spoiled and out of touch they are. And so it kind of gets into that a little bit with the conversations like that. Like they think they're charitable, but like they're not really, you know, in total, like they're taking really mostly. And so he somehow thinks that he is doing something good, or this community is doing something good, but obviously in reality they're only causing harm. So I thought that was cool to just get his perspective on it and realize how not true it is. And then I love how she points out at that point in the conversation how, like, she asks, like, do you only eat females? And he's like, oh yeah, but you know, it's because they taste better. But like, it's obvious that it's not, yeah, like you said, that's not true. And it's just, you know, it's more of a fetish thing for them, but they want to make it something more important, you know, like it's some grandiose thing about giving, but it's really just about victimizing women, and that's it. So I think that conversation did a really good job of kind of like touching on those themes of just maybe how women are kind of objectified and men don't even realize what they're doing. You know, I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I did like that speech and how cringy it got. The podcast I brought up earlier, they were talking about how sometimes I think one of them was like dating, and like some guy was into like, I think it was like a collectible or something, or like very passionate about collectibles, and she was like talking about how, or maybe I forgot. But anyways, she was talking about like how some guys like when they really love something that isn't that deep, and then they'll like start saying like it's about the world and it's about like all this, and it's like, no, it's not. It's not. And that's really cool. And I love how in this it's just a very twisted version of that. It's like it's about giving and taking, and like or what does he say? Like he says something that's like, I just like having people with me, you know, like they become a part of me, or I become a part of them, or something, like some very reverse
where it's
logic.
Really, it's completely one-sided. Yeah, in the opposite direction. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
While we're on these, whatever you want to talk about next.
Oh, you can go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, while we're on these themes, like, can we talk about his wife and kind of how that kind of fits into these themes? Because, you know, it goes, I thought it was really cool how they handled his wife, because that was one of those points that I was like, in a lesser movie, it would just be really boring, and she would just be a passive, you know, she would just be a passive victim, and that's it. But like, it keeps you guessing the whole time, kind of, until the very end. Like, is she just a victim, or is she an accomplice, or is she both? Like, did she start out as one and then morphed into another, or does she really believe? Is she a true believer, and she actually convinced herself that this world is just like him, but she's given part of herself? So I thought it was cool, and I kind of like that they didn't answer. They didn't give her entire backstory, so you're kind of left wondering. Yeah, and it kind of draws that into sort of how a lot of women, I guess you could make a parallel to how women put themselves in that role. Like, you see some women that, this is obviously, I'm a man, so this is going to sound really, I'm not accurate and whatever, out of touch. I shouldn't be talking about this, but like a lot of women probably just adopt the gender roles because it's comfortable, and so they then they get stuck in like a relationship or a marriage that's really actually miserable for them and victimizes them or whatever, but they just think that that's what they should be doing. So I thought it was cool how you could draw that parallel from her character of like, what is she, is she on board with this, or was she just kind of victimized from the beginning and kind of brainwashed?
Yeah. And like, I mean, all of society has casted, brainwashing, gender
expectations.
Yeah. So like a lot of like my feeling is most times it's all like like you're not even aware you're doing it. And like for her character specifically, I feel like, because it's kind of implied that she was a previous victim, right? And then just her missing the leg.
Only because her leg is missing, but like what if she I mean, based on how brutal she was at the end of the movie, it's like, well, what if she voluntarily gave her gave her leg because she
Oh,
thought that
yeah.
was
As a
what she was supposed to do or something. I don't know. What if she
yeah.
truly got brainwashed by
Yeah,
the society?
because what I was thinking was, or my inclination was, she was taken, and then she had her
Yeah.
leg taken away, and then because there was the I can't maybe you remember, but like our main character, when she is reading like a newspaper or a magazine, or
Magazine.
yeah, a magazine, there's like a letter like, hey, if you're reading this, then he really likes you. I was
Yeah.
kind of tying that to the wife. Like at some point she was captive and she left that note or whatever, and then she
I thought there
managed,
was that too. Yeah.
yeah,
At
and she
first.
managed to get on his good side, and then he felt, since she knew, and that they had that connection or whatever, and then it just became like the Stockholm syndrome type thing. Like, I can't
Yeah.
escape him. I need to support him, and like maybe he's right. And this is like one of the things that I wish the movie would have pushed really into, is like, all right, so you know, our lead, our lead female, she starts the reverse psychology uh thing to like try to get out of this, which is super
Hmm.
genius. Where she starts to try to get his empathy and like sympathy or whatever, and try to get his interest by like,
Act interested. Yeah.
yeah, like act interested into the eating and the cannibalism and stuff. And there's that like awesome scene where he's talking about like, it just makes you feel different, and then like where she first eats it.
Hmm.
This was the one music video moment that I did like, was like, it was like playing all the other people eating, and then it was almost like, it was almost implied that maybe when you eat human meat, you like enter this
Yeah.
like transcendental phase, or like, it's like eating some drug or something. And I
Yeah.
wish the movie would have like almost tricked us into thinking she was turning to the bad side, like that she was
Hmm.
into it. And then there would have been the fake out when she bit his wiener off. Uh,
I, I mean, I kind of was thinking that. Did you? Was there
really?
something that, yeah,
Well,
that made you really
y-
not like? I was even up till that point. I was like, it could go either way, kind of
okay.
at this point.
So the thing that I think that would have just been a simple cut that would have like led me on that trail was like, after that first dinner date where they eat the human meatballs.
Yeah.
He leaves her in the cell, and then she immediately starts like vomiting,
Yeah.
and she's like, forcing herself to vomit, and then all this kind of stuff. Like, if you would have cut that scene out, I think it would have played way better.
I
Like
think
the whole,
it still kind of worked for me because then the way the second dinner scene goes, she sort of explains, why like that she even explains to him that she feels conflicted about it. And
yeah,
that, oh man, I want to go through that sequence like kind of like step by step because I thought that scene was so probably the best scene in the movie, like that second dinner scene. But yeah, like I think it kind of makes sense because she does show him that she feels conflicted. So I was kind of like, I mean, maybe she was forcing herself to vomit because she thought that's what she should do. She's still opposed to it
yeah,
morally, but in reality, it doesn't bother her. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. One thing that, like, so, did you ever watch 10 Cloverfield Lane?
yeah,
So, there's that one scene, there's like a bottle cap or something. I forgot, but they're at the dinner table, and then like I think Mary Elizabeth Winstead or something, she has like something that she wants to stab what's his face with. But there was like a huge emotional tension. Like, I never got that from this movie. And I think that's like a really important part of the hostage kind of genre, is like that moment where they're about to make a run for it, and then there's like waiting for the right moment. Like, I never really felt
mm,
that. And I think
true.
the her biting his wiener off would have been that scene, but like it didn't build it didn't build tension the right way. But we should get into that scene that you're talking about, the that final eating sequence.
That almost felt like a mini. It could have been a short film just in
Oh
itself.
yeah,
Like just that,
yeah,
just that. Like I love pretty much everything about that scene because I rewatched it today as I was going through it. I was like, man, this is so like her practicing smiling before he shows up, and then immediately just chugging a glass of wine.
yeah,
And I was like, okay, like she's trying to pretend and everything. Like that should be sort of a tell for him that she has to get herself drunk in order to because she knows she's about to eat meat.
hmm,
But he doesn't really. I don't know. She jokes they joke it off and then move on.
Well, I think that's actually very smart writing because so, you know, if you're in her head, this guy likes having control and power. If I drink this whole glass of wine, that makes me seem weaker. And then he actually gets excited by it, and he's like, yeah, and he drinks his whole glass. It's like that reverse. It's like the same thing he did in the grocery store where he's like, oh, my niece and nephew, like, I'm a family guy. She's doing the same thing. Like, look at me, I'm a vulnerable woman and I'm intoxicated.
Yeah. So he doesn't even think about that. Yeah. Because he wants to believe. That's what's cool. I think they did this well, that just from facial acting, like he does I think after the first date, there's that scene where he's walking away from her cell. And he told her that he, you know, from the very moment I first saw you, like, I knew you were different and special or whatever. And then he's walking away from the cell and his face is like all conflicted. Like you can just tell he wants to believe. But then he also decides, I think at that moment, to take the friend, do surgery on her and make that his next meal to like really test her, you know? Yeah. Well, he doesn't straight out. That's another thing I like about the scene, but we'll get to that. But like, then they go into their banter, you know, which is very reminiscent of their original dates. And I thought it was a really cool perversion of that sense of humor that they have that they set up. And it also makes complete sense from both characters' perspectives, because from her perspective, joking about it, like, you know, naming the person that they're eating and everything, like that for her, it's to just distract her from the fact that of what she's doing, so that she doesn't break down, which she does later. And from his perspective, like it's indicating to him that she's on board with it, and just makes him really happy that she is able to be this casual while they're eating people. Like he's super excited about that, you know? So I thought that was cool. And then what happens next? Well, I guess that was the point where I was like, is she really okay with this? Like, what if she is? Like, I don't know. I was like, at that point, kind of, all right, well, let's see what she does. And then he shows her the painting, like behind the painting, all the girls' kind of memorabilia, and she notices her friend's cell phone, which I thought was cool, little reveal. And then he makes the comment when they're eating the breast meat, about how it might even be familiar, but she doesn't really pick up on it. And I guess that's just because she's very drunk, or maybe she doesn't want to pick up. Maybe at that point she's just like, she does not want to notice anything that he's saying, because she's already seen the friend's cell phone. So you would think, I don't know.
Well, no, she saw the cell phone after, right?
Oh, was it after? Maybe.
Because she makes the "you saved the breast for last" joke. Yeah. And I just imagine like you having that in the bag, like you're trying to, you know, like in her head trying to give this performance, and then you come up with a joke that bad. I don't know.
Yeah.
But trying to like logically, like imagine you having to give this performance to someone and eat human meat, and then also come up with a bad, like I can't come up with bad jokes at any point in my life. So like I don't know. It is a very nice, and my favorite thing about the performance is when she starts breaking down crying. And I'm like, oh, she fucked up. Like, damn it. Like, she was so close.
Yes.
And then, like, you can even tell, like, his face is immediate suspicion. And he's like, what's wrong? And he's, like, immediately probably thinking, like, oh, she doesn't like this. This is all fake or whatever. And then she goes in. And it takes her a while to say, like, I feel conflicted. Because first she's like, I feel gross or whatever. But then, like, later in that little speech, she says, but I like it. And then that's when it, like, that reverse psychology cue of she's just like me. Like maybe he was imagining his first time, you know, feeling kind of gross about it, but then thinking like it's almost like a kink or whatever, you know, like a forbidden fruit type thing. And like she's just genius to like cue on that. And then also it plays it in again to what men want women, like specifically him as a man, like his sick perversion is like he wants a woman to be beneath him and weak. So like her crying, being weak, emotional, vulnerable, now drunk, and then saying things that you said previously when you were younger, first trying this incident. So like it was a very synchronized, like just that was probably
Yeah.
the best written scene for me as well.
So he can, so he can like comfort her,
Yeah,
like be the man, in the
Yep.
situation and like lead her on and instruct her in these ways. Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Yeah, I didn't even think about that
Which
aspect
is
of it.
so smart. Like if you're in this scenario where, unfortunately he has the power, like if you were to lean into that and like break him, like it's so cool, that like dichotomy of like how to play psychology. like it's so weird how reverse psychology works. Like if you give someone what they want, then they become the vulnerable one. I
Yeah.
don't know, it's pretty genius.
Yeah, I liked how she revealed it. Like because it reminds me of how like often people who commit murders, like they just can't help but tell it to someone and confess it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like the first thing she says is that she feels awful, like, and she probably just had to get that off her chest and just say it so that she could remain sane. But then she really geniusly follows that up with like, because she doesn't feel awful. Like she feels awful because she doesn't feel awful about what she's doing.
Yeah.
And that bonds right in that moment, like that bonds her with him in his head. And he's just like, yeah, you're just different, And then the very end of that scene that just puts a nice little bow on the scene is him realizing that he didn't handcuff her, and then her revealing that she had noticed that previously, and that her saying that also tells him that she is not going to try to escape, and that she noticed it, but she wants to be there, so she didn't even attempt to escape. So it's like, yeah, oh man, so
Another
many good
layer.
so many good. And then they dance, which is kind of a little bit silly.
Okay,
they did it previously on one of their dates, so it kind of made sense that she's trying to really tell him like that she's comfortable and loose and whatever.
And it is a complete mirror, because the previous time he's like, "Hey, let's dance," and now she's the one saying, "Hey, let's dance." But I do think they are not. I don't know. Does anyone dance like the way they dance? Because like when they started dancing, I was like, no, like I don't know.
Drunk people. I don't know. Yeah,
like they're like weird wavy hands, and they're not really like, I don't know. There's just. I don't know. I guess people dancing is weird. I haven't seen anyone dance in a while. I don't go out of my room.
It is weird. Dancing is weird. Moving your body together with someone rhythmically. Yeah, strange.
Yeah. Like, unless you're a professional dancer, you probably look stupid. Like, I'm just thinking, like, like at people's weddings or whatever. Like,
I have never, I've been to weddings and I've never danced, because I'm just like, nah. Only time I dance is when nobody is around. Yeah, but it is a weird thing.
Oh my god.
But yeah, like, I guess this is where we could start talking about how it maybe falls, or to me it starts to fall apart a little bit, the ending. Not a ton. I mean, it's still fine, but it could have been better, I guess, to where, well, there's some really good aspects of the ending, I guess. Like, so like, she's got him all comfortable. She goes in the bathroom and you're like, obviously she's going to do something, but it's kind of cool that he doesn't think that at this point, because she's got him so off kilter. And she comes back and bites him on the dick and rubs toothpaste in his eyes.
Which is smart.
I just thought it was funny, like that's what she did. Yeah. And then she runs away.
So actually that's something I like in a lot of horror movies. It's like, just grab anything. Like, anything is better than nothing. So the fact that she was like, what is this, peppermint toothpaste? All right. It's going into his eyes. I don't care. So that's really
that makes sense. Right.
But one complaint I did have, because I wish like because like I think we should have seen like his bit off, like, because if she did bite off the wiener, like we should have seen that hit the ground, and then the rest of this sequence should have played out with his like flaccid, and like you would have gave him a prosthetic, because it would have been half a wiener. And I think that would have been really cool, and like it would fit the whole gross, funny contradiction, and then like it would be a literal visual metaphor of like, this is this man with half.
He is meat.
Yeah, used meat. Yeah, I think that would have been awesome.
He's meat now.
Yeah, because what was weird is like after this, they're all running in the woods, and like he has his underwear, and you don't like I wish we would have seen her like remove his underwear and then do the bite.
I wonder if
flopping around, because it was
it
rated
seems
R.
Yeah, it was, but it does feel like the stuff you're mentioning is making me realize that it does feel like the director was scared. Maybe because this is her first movie, and I think maybe I don't know the whole process, but like she was wanting it to be in theaters. You know, she was like pitching it to studios probably, and wanting it to be in theaters. I'm not sure how the process went, but
because do we see any nudity?
No.
Yeah.
So I think she was playing it safe on a lot of those things. Like she didn't want to go overboard because she really wanted her movie to get out there. I feel like it was just a little bit of nervousness from a first time director.
So bringing this up actually reminded me of another thing. So I did not like how the first conflict he takes her ass or whatever. Like I didn't, for some reason, like my logic brain never connected that she lost her butt like after that. Because like I don't think, because like it's not visually obvious, like there's not like a huge dip. Like wouldn't there be a dip like where her butt was? Like it would be like a concave inward. Because I mean,
I don't know. It depends on how much he took, and I don't know. And then she limps a little bit. Like she does limp and kind of like do that a little bit, and she has to crawl. I think
if you did lose your gluteus maximus or whatever it's actually called, I think you would be unable to walk for a couple months to a year. I think.
Yeah, I don't know the realism on that. Not sure.
Yeah,
it did attempt to at least show her that she was only able to crawl for a bit, and we don't really know how much time passed.
Yeah, that's true.
It didn't seem like a ton of time passed, I guess, because the friend was kind of looking for her. But I mean, it could have been a month. Like, who knows? We don't really know from the timeline of the movie.
Yeah. But anyways, back to where we were. So yeah, after this wiener biting incident, she runs out, locks the door. I do like how when she, runs downstairs to her friend and to the other woman who's held captive, it's like immediately like, I can't explain anything. Put on these shoes. We're leaving now.
Yeah.
Because in most movies, when this situation happens, it's like, where were you? Oh my God, I don't know. And then like everyone's like explaining all these like plot things and like, we need to do this, this, and this. And these, all three of them were just like, get the fuck out.
We gotta go. Yeah. I like that, but I really didn't like that she runs back down into the dungeon. Like, and that's I understand she was trying to free her friends, but couldn't he there are several things that I was like, okay, he would have done this and this and this. Like, first thing he would have done if he was able to, which I think it showed him locking that door from the outside and then unlocking it. He would have just limped over to the door and locked it. So she's like they're just trapped in the dungeon. He was just like waited for them to calm down or something, or go grab his gun so he could then reopen the door. And that was another thing. Like, he's really close to the kitchen. Why didn't he grab a knife sooner? Like, I don't understand that.
Yeah.
And then later, of course, him having a gun, it's like, okay, he was able to grab quickly.
Come from? Yeah.
Where did it? Yeah, he was able to quickly grab that, but he couldn't have done that in that like 2 minutes that he had before they come back up. So that's where it starts logically. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I understand he just got his penis bit off, but so that you could just say that he was so distracted by that, and he was drunk, and off his guard. So I don't know.
The gun thing was very unfulfilling. Like, honestly, all the like running in the wood stuff, that was very unfulfilling for like, I think it should have all stayed in the house, because
in the house. Yeah.
Like, I liked the fight in the kitchen. I just wish it would have got into until they're dead. Like, this made me appreciate Titan way more with how that handled that initial house fight scene, because you see the kills.
Oh yeah.
And like, I did not realize how, like, I just felt so like, why wouldn't you, like, I would have
just kill him. Yeah.
I would have cut him into pieces, literally.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was bothering me that none of them were doing it, especially when there's like multiple times he was downed and then they're all
Yep.
just starting to like escape again. I'm like, come on, that would
Yeah.
I would have hit him at least 20 more times with that meat grinder pounder thing, like at least.
The only thing I could think of is that they were trying, maybe the director was trying to portray the characters as being better than that, just like that they're good, they're not savage like he is, so they're only doing what they need to do, but
Yeah.
but from a movie perspective, it would have been much more satisfying to have a Quentin Tarantino takedown at that point, which
Yeah.
the kitchen fight, like you said, was really good, and like the choreography of that fight was really good compared to a lot of other movies like that have similar fights,
Yeah.
where you're just like wincing because you're like, oh man, there's a hesitation there, like there's too much of a pause there. In reality, the editing doesn't really work, but in this fight, it was really good with like a 3-on-1 fight where they're all kind of doing something at the same time, and he's dodging out of the way of this one, and then this other person was already doing something, so they're ready with this. But he's quick, he's stronger, and he's quicker. So it made sense. It was a really fun fight to watch.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
And they handled all that well. And then with my favorite thing, which is when someone is injured, that injury has to carry over. And like how one of them is missing a butt, one of them's missing a breast, and then one of them's missing a leg. Like they all limped appropriately.
Yes.
So like the lady with the missing breast, like I guess it was her right or left hand, I forgot. But whatever, it was her swinging arm. So like her swings were always weakened. And then, you had one that was on the ground biting, and then you had the other one. Like it was like that play of, their disabilities while also still like trying to fight for survival. It was just, there was just those like couple of seconds after they downed him where they started to just walk away. Cause like what I was secretly fantasizing was they were just going to rip him to pieces. And like what I would have written in an alternate version is that he was feeding them all their own meat, and then like in the story it'd be like when you eat human meat you become like crazed like a vampire or something and you crave it. And then I would have had the ending where they've all been strung out on meat, human meat, because they've been eating it, that when they finally down him and kill him they start eating him up, and it's like it's like women eating the men now, and I thought that would have been cool.
That would have been a very different version of this, like a grindhouse version of this movie. Yeah. But yeah, that fight was really good overall.
So
it's just so bad because I was comparing it to The Northman because that was the only reason. I was like, damn, like the choreography in this low budget little movie is like better than so much better and more thought out than the choreography in like The Northman, which is all about the fights. And I'm just like, oh man,
it's the one takes, man. Like there was a lot of cutting in this. Like it didn't feel like it because I feel like they probably had multiple cameras in the kitchen, so it was just intercutting between different perspectives. And I assume they still did the actions the same, but the ability to edit, because they probably did it multiple times, the ability to edit into the right actions, it's so freeing. Yeah.
No, you're totally right. Yeah, it was The Northman was handicapped a lot by that. But yeah, so then they go outside, and I agree with you. Like everything in the woods is sort of underwhelming because it's all like, very dark, and you can't really see what's going on.
And then he's just shooting blindly, like get out of here. And he's like screaming.
Doesn't make sense with his character being a very smart, planning psychopath. Like, yeah. He should have had more like he should have had contingency plans for this kind of thing. If someone tried to escape, I would imagine he would have stuff like that, like booby traps or something like that.
Yeah,
would have been cool.
And then them splitting up, that didn't really make sense since they're all like handicapped in physical ways. I don't know. Like, what was their goal? Like, they were just gonna run endlessly into the woods.
Exactly. I don't know.
And then also, like, I didn't even like the final fight between him and her. Like, what did you think when she finally like shot him in the head and stuff, like, and all that? Like, I didn't.
I mean, it was sort of satisfying to see her shoot him in the face, and then the killing the wife was pretty satisfying, I guess, of a death with the shovel.
It was very anti-blood, like, because she shoots him
Yeah.
straight in the, like, I do like how we see, the gun hole, but there's no
See it,
blood,
yeah.
there's no squirting, there's no
True.
pop. That's actually very weird now I'm thinking about it, because, like, any other movie, you would have seen the, like, 3 squirts out of that little hole, like something,
Yeah, I do think that was like a director choice. Like it seems like she really did decide now that you're pointing it out, like to where this is going to be a mostly like bloodless, sexless movie. Like most of the horror and the gore is going to be implied and like very sterile. Maybe for censor reasons, like she just really didn't want it to be.
or
She wanted it to.
yeah,
I don't know.
or maybe she just doesn't like that stuff, like maybe it was
Maybe.
just like, this is gonna be my first movie, but I'm not into, like, me, like, maybe she's just not into gore, because it reminds me of the K Vitus Ada, and how that movie never showed any violence until the very end.
That's true.
With the people getting in the kill room or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I remember that
Because it didn't.
that director was saying
they
the
didn't
same
want to
thing.
fetishize the violence of that situation.
Yeah. See, I just wish they would have not fetishized or hyper-violence the women stuff, but if they would have done it to the men, I think that would have been a cool, like, reversal. Sure. And that's why I wanted to see his, like, half wiener, and then him, like if she would have shot him, and then it would just been fountains of blood. Like it doesn't even match with the rest of the movie, but it's like finally the purging of this toxic man,
the evil
abuser. Yeah, like he's finally laid to rest. Not laid to rest, but destroyed.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. That would have been cool.
One thing I was confused, like, did you? We already kind of covered his wife. Gets choked out, or no, she gets, like, stabbed in the neck, right, with a key or something. What did you think about her turn, like, in her? Like, for some reason I didn't believe that situation, like, where she was like, "Oh, you got him, thank you," and then she immediately.
I kind of liked that,
choking him,
because it was like
choking her.
She was trying, like, she was really trying, but like she's such a psycho that it wasn't even convincing to the main character. It was just enough to, like, throw her off for a few seconds, and that's it. Yeah. Well, I mean, one big thing is, like, why was she there at the house? Why did she come? I thought that was a big plot hole.
Yeah, because she
like,
never went before previously.
Right. There was a separation. Like, there was a whole separation, I feel like, on purpose. So it did not explain when it could have thrown in something really, quick that would have explained why she would come. Like, maybe he tripped there's like a red button under a table that he presses, to like trip a kind of like red alert. Just in case something happens, would have been cool. But
and then also, this is a huge plot hole. There was like I guess the guy who drives all the meat to the individual people and, like, ships them out. It was like a Native American guy, and, like, he was there. And then she was like, "We need to find them." And then it's like, find them, kill them, or whatever. And then we see her again, but we never see that other character.
Yeah, I thought this is okay. I was thinking the same thing as you, but then when I rewatched it today, that scene, I realized that when they find the husband, which this is a nice creepy moment in the ending, and she finds his body, and the first thing that she thinks is, "We've got to get him on ice real quick," because and she doesn't say it, but, like, it's implied that, like, his meat is going to be really valuable because all these people that know that he's been shipping the meat, like, wouldn't it be cool? Won't it be like a novelty that you can get his meat now? I thought that was cool. Very creepy touch. And so I think the bodyguard guy just drags him off. She tells him, like, we need to go get him on ice. Go get him on ice and, like, start making the preparations. So I think that's the explanation, is, like, he's inside the house, so he doesn't know any of this is going on. Like, he's down in the basement, like, prepping him,
Yeah.
Which is stupid of her to tell him to go in the house in this situation where there's victims running free. Yeah, that's stupid.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
But then, the movie just ends. It ends on them just kind of the friends reuniting and having a nice, like, best friend moment, which was good, which was cool, I thought. But then that's the end of the movie, and it's like, oh, Like it seemed like it kind of ended in the middle of the scene.
Yeah,
And I feel like they could have ended it. They could have hey, that toxic man moment that you wanted. It could have been the bodyguard. Like it could have been them sneaking up on him back in the house and executing him.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, there could have been a scene at the very end that was sort of like a coda on their friendship and maybe how this whole situation has changed her in some way, but they didn't. It was just like mainly just best friend moment, and that's it.
Yeah, this is the kind of horror movie ending that I hate, where it just ends with people like, "Wow, that was crazy." You know, like it's just like this release, and like I'm like, no, they wouldn't. So one movie, and you know of my hatred of this movie. It's like Get Out ends with that, and that's like that's the point of the movie where it just completely loses me, and I just can't handle it when like the best friends in a cop car or whatever, and then comes out, and then it's like they just have like a joke reaction, and I'm just like, no, like, and I get
listen to the Cineverm archived episode of that to get Anthony's full rage on that.
Yeah, and
that
like
movie.
This movie does the same thing to a lesser, metaphorical things, so it's not as offensive to me, but like it's still like it's such a diffusion that I don't know, like I don't get, like I don't know. I guess some people like cheering at the end of a horror movie, like we made it out.
Yeah.
But for me, I like the Midsommar, Hereditary, like almost like I don't know what to think anymore, or like even Annihilation or like Ex Machina. It's more of a thoughtful silence. Like I think that's what I really love in like weird horror films.
I think because of the comedy elements of this movie, it makes sense that they brought some levity to the very last moments of the movie.
See, the one moment that I did like is it panning to the phone and it being Chad from saying "you up" like that. I like that.
Yeah, that was fun. That was a fun little joke right there at the very end. Yeah. Chad.
Well, I guess really quickly to hit the best friend, because we kind of skipped all her parts, but like I did love those parts of her film, or the film where, she goes to the bar and is investigating, she's Googling the names, she's like searching the photos, discovers all that kind of stuff, goes to the wife's house, calls the number while he's there. Very like I loved that whole that could have been a whole movie into itself, like you were saying, like it could have been the Psycho reversal type thing.
Yeah, I agree. Like all of that was a lot of the points where I was like, a dumber movie would do something unrealistic here just to like rush it along. But everything about it, her investigation was pretty realistic. Like the bartender not wanting to give her the name immediately because like he could lose his job. Whereas like you watch any of like the CSI show, well, I guess they're talking to cops in those situations, but it's just funny. Like other shows movies where there's an investigation, like he would just immediately have given her the name just so that we can move on to the next scene. It's like, he wouldn't. He just because he knows her, he's not going to just give the name of one of his customers, immediately. He does later, but and then everything. I hate. One of my pet peeves in movies is when they don't use like just normal technology, like they remake a version of Google, named something really stupid, that you're like, oh my, it immediately draws you out of the movie, and you're like, God, this is just not Google. Or they, with social networks, they just have some web designer make a mock-up real quick of a fake social network, and it looks really horrible. But I love that everything she did in the movie was very realistic, like online and how she investigated it. And she did the reverse image search, and I feel like I've watched other movies recently where I'm like, why didn't they just do a reverse image search on that? That would have been a very quick thing. And I love that she did that immediately.
I didn't know you could do that. I was like,
oh,
whoa,
yeah.
what?
No, man. I love that she did that immediately. And I was like, yeah, you could just plug that into Google and, oh, look at that. It's a fake stock image. Yeah, that's cool. And then him replying and not doing the normal reply that she's used to, like the love you more or whatever reply that she normally did. That was a nice touch. Oh, and then her sharing her location with the bartender several times, very smart character move. And she did everything right.
Yeah. And I love how that guy kind of just bails out. Like he doesn't
Yeah.
have the balls to do anything about this. And I love how the movie, it's like
Yeah.
the women got themselves out of the situation, where I think how you're saying, like
Yes.
a weaker written movie would have just
Yeah.
used that bartender guy to come in and then possibly die or like do whatever.
Yep.
But I love how that guy just like hears gunshots and he's like, nope, not worth it.
Yeah. Very realistic, but yeah, then also very on theme for
Yeah.
like you're saying. So that was a cool moment.
Awesome, man. Well,
I wanted to say before I forget, since you
Yeah.
brought up Get Out, like, yeah, just, I don't know. I think this is why I have more praise for this movie, and maybe I built it up a little too much for you, but just because I'm just comparing it to other similar movies that got big theatrical releases, but were like, and got a lot of praise, but were honestly are worse than this movie, or just you could say are very just on the same level of quality and thoughtfulness as this movie, like Get Out. And all of his oh god, what's his name? What's the director's name?
Oh, Jordan Peele.
Peele.
Yeah.
Jordan Peele. Yeah, like all of his movies, how they're very overrated. Like this movie compared to like Us,
Yeah.
like just come on, like, or like even I just thought of like that Promising Young Woman movie
I haven't
that
seen
came
that
out
one yet.
last year. Oh Jesus. I mean that thing got Oscar nominations, and
I think it won
it was
best screenplay.
I didn't even remember, but yeah, horrible movie. Like honestly, just not a good movie at all.
Whoa.
And it's a similar theme, like it's trying to be smart
Yeah.
and like witty with like feminism and whatever. It's
just
got the same similar themes and stuff and murder and all that, but just very unsatisfying movie. And just a waste of time when I watched that is what I felt.
So it was like
and I'm like, yeah,
nose?
like this. Okay, it's getting like Oscar nominations and Oscar wins and all this credit, and then you get a movie like this that honestly is much better, and it's just released on Hulu, and no one.
Yeah,
whatever.
that's
why I wanted to give this an extra spotlight too. Is like, come on.
Yeah. And that's a bummer, because I honestly, like, I think I connect with movies better in a theater because I can feel an audience. I think that's why I brought up, like, if you watched it with someone, because I remember watching, like, Everything Everywhere All at Once, and, when there's a fight scene that's very comedic, I am not, like, a typical laugher. Like, I don't normally laugh out loud, but hearing a lot of people laugh made me, subconsciously feel okay to laugh, and then I started laughing. So I think I would have enjoyed the vibe of this if I could feel other people, feeling the same kind of energy. Because I think this would have played very well in a theater. Like, I mean, the imagery is very like, I feel kind of like upset that I only got to see it on my like crappy computer monitor when like this would have blown up on a screen. God, like like their imagery together, like what they created is very beautiful. And it would have helped with the sound effects. I forgot to bring up earlier, like when they go through the montage of eating, that's the only part that disgusted me, was hearing all, like, you see them and the sounds of chewing and munching and the meat grinding and stuff. Like, I love that. And I think that would have played I think that's why this film had such a huge reaction out of Sundance, because no one knew what the movie was about. The first 30 minutes is a rom-com, and then it just, I imagine there's people like actually wincing and feeling disgusted, and that would have added to that energy of like, this is very dark and comedic, because some people would be laughing out of shock, some people would be like, oh, like it would be a cool mixture. And like the thing that's so weird, because this happened to like one of my favorite movies of the year, Turning Red, and that was a Pixar movie, and Disney Plus just dumped it on Disney Plus. And there's like, I swear this has to be real, but I don't know what it is, but there's just something about a film, even if it gets like a 1 week theatrical window, if I feel like it stays in the conscious of like movie people. Like The Lighthouse is still being talked about, even though it bombed. But like, I feel like if The Lighthouse would have just been dumped on HBO Max, it would have been that 1 week and then it would have been completely forgotten. And like this, I guess it came out at some point. I literally follow movie news like all day, and I did not know this dropped. And then it's just like, I don't know, there's something about when something drops immediately into a streaming service where it just dissipates. Like it happens to Netflix movies all the time. Like even the big, like The Irishman, I remember that was a huge deal, dropped, and then like after that initial week, no one was talking about it. And or even like Power of the Dog. Like I felt like that if it wasn't for the Oscar stuff, like I didn't actually feel people discovering it, you know, like how a theatrical film does. So I feel bummed that this movie was just dumped on Hulu, like especially Hulu, because Hulu's more TV oriented.
Yeah,
So,
right. Yeah, when I see the Hulu name attached to the movie, I have lower expectations. Yeah, but yeah, so it is. I agree with you. It is. On the other hand, it's like, I mean, since the future of movies is obviously going further and further away from the movie theater, it is like, I feel like people just we have to like retrain our brains of like thinking of like what, of the bias of like, you know, judging a movie, but also just, I guess this is where like criticism and critics are even more valuable now because of just the pure volume of movies that are available on these streaming services. And how in the world do you even sort through them without people saying like, okay, these are trash, this is really good. Like, yeah.
And keeping the discussion of a movie out in the conscious, you know, that is that's going to be very important going forward, which that's why we're here. And I guess one final question, is this canon for you?
No, I don't see anything that makes it like unique, like super significant, but I just think it is a good movie.
Yeah, I think if they would have showed half a wiener bitten off, I think it would have been
that would have done it for you.
It would have been half a
there's
wiener.
There's a movie. What am I thinking about? It's called like Slither or oh my god, I can't believe I'm blanking on this movie. Is it Slither? No, I don't think it's Slither. It's a horror movie, and it's like, it's funny because it's like kind of a satire of Christians, and so I got a lot out of it just based on my background. But it has exactly the scene that you're talking about, where there's a bad guy, and he's whatever, like, and finally in one of the final scenes, one of the main girls either cuts his dick off or bites it off, like this movie.
Wow.
And you just see it just kind of like plop on the floor, just like really, really pathetically. And you see him without it, and it's like he's just like horrified, and it's really funny. Oh my god, that's so annoying that I am blanking on the name of that movie. It's like Slither or something like that, but I'm sure people can figure it out.
But I think that's just a cool image. Like, it's cool. And then, like, all right, so here's the, like, sexist part, is that it's, like, in horror films, it's so average and normal to see, like, women breasts, like, full frontal women all the time. You know, it's no problem. You know, we've seen it in, like, all kinds of slasher movies where even they're getting slashed or killed while their breasts are showing. And, like, I think Midsommar did it, you know, where that male character is, like, running around with his floppy wiener and just being like a humiliation, you know? And like, I just think it'd be cool if we could reverse it. And like, even in The Lighthouse, like, show these two nude men going at it, and then just seeing the reality of like flaccidness. Like, I just think, I don't know. I just think it's like something that's just not seen in films at all. Like, for like I was even thinking about like a lot of like TV shows, you know, TV shows show a lot of sex nowadays. So it's like, every time it cuts to the man on the bed or the man nude, there's always like something in front of his junk, or his legs are propped up a certain way. And it's just like weird why it's always been like, I think it's because like when a dude is flaccid, it's not an intimidating sight. Like, it's almost like a very, you know, it's like very small and very like and I mean small, like emotionally, or like, I don't know. There's something about the image that I guess people are not wanting to see, and I think that's why I think it should be shown, because it's like it's making men appear as something they're not, like all the time, you know.
But there is a lot of good modern examples where it shows it, and it does, like it just kind of comes across as pathetic. I'm trying to think of movies, but even movie, like Hereditary, like
when
the cult members, you know,
and it's just like it just brings like the image of a man so far down. And I think like, in history with the statues and stuff of like Romans and Greeks and like how all their men are like showing their junk. Like I think I don't know, there's something like that is just so like humanizing about it and like a like lowering of the scale. And I was gonna say the movie that does it that I really liked and that did it perfectly was Roma, where this like toxic dude is like showing his like weird workout stupid stuff, and then he's just like flaccid right in front of her, and it's like this dude's a piece of shit. And then like you see him be a piece of shit throughout the whole film, and I just think that intro of him is just very telling. But yeah, so we need more of
the
that.
The movie I was thinking about is Teeth. It's called Teeth. It's really good.
Oh,
I was another one that I was surprisingly surprised by.
So spoilers for Teeth, because I think I know. So you can tune out. But is that the one where like she has like a vagina that eats people?
Yes, vagina dentata. Yeah. Yep.
Oh my god, that's awesome.
It's a funny movie, and it's like a good satire. And yeah, it has a very, very fun scenes with that.
Maybe I'll does that go darker or funnier than this? Or would you say
funnier?
It's the same?
I think it's more comedy. Yeah.
Okay. So like B movie or?
Yeah, like B movie, like over the top. Yeah. Hilarious. There's a scene where she goes to the gynecologist and it doesn't end well. Yeah, it's funny. It's hilarious. Like a creepy gynecologist guy.
Nice.
It's fun.
Awesome, man. But did you have any other points for this or?
Nope. That's it.
Awesome. So that will conclude our episode of Cineverm for Fresh. Thank you so much for listening, and we would be grateful and humbled if you could leave us a review or rating with your thoughts or comments on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you could share us with your friends or family, as that helps us in our journey to spread the love of cinema. And we'll see you next time.
See ya.